Cashiers, has it ever happened that you condemned buyers for their purchases? If so, then tell your strangest story. In my youth, I was a cashier for a lot of years, answering your question. No, I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I didn't want to be there at all. Even if you decided to buy gasoline and a lighter from us, and told me that you were going to set fire to your mom, I would only ask one question. Sir, do you need a check? That's exactly how it is. When the authorities come to me after the shift and ask if someone has bought goods A, B, and V for the day, I usually have no idea at all. The man buys an ice cream pizza, 6 cans of Bud Light, a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and a pack of cigarettes. I guess you're running away while your wife is out of town. My wife has been out of town for 17 years. This was the last time I allowed myself this phrase. The only situation when I really condemn someone is if the buyer takes diapers, baby food, or something else, which is clearly intended for a child, and then returns the product to its place because it turns out at the checkout that he lacks beer and cigarettes. I often work in grocery stores. I constantly see how people take lottery tickets, cigarettes and beer, but refuse to buy some sweets for children because they allegedly have no money. Let's not rush with the conclusions. Maybe these cigarettes and beer were also for the child. Good times. Since I cook sandwiches, I constantly condemn people who order sandwiches with a strange combination of products. You say you want a blueberry boublek with a tomato? Well, what do you say, dude? It's ironic that the last sentence does not sound at all like something unsatisfactory. In Canadian, it means, as you say, a fucking pervert. When I worked in a grocery store, once in the evening, I watched 2 completely polar types of shopping before a date. Guy number 1 bought a dozen of roses, grapes, strawberries, and whipped cream. And behind him came the guy number 2 and bought pizza rolls and condoms. Personally, I condemned the fat people whose diet consisted of only chips, soda, and cigarettes. I know that there are a lot of people on Reddit who claim that obesity is usually not related to food, but blia, in the 2 years that I worked as a cashier, I only did what I was fed up with how much shit fat bastards buy for themselves and their fat children. Damn. When you try to lose weight, there is nothing more important than a diet. I have an absolutely sedentary lifestyle. I even spend all my free time sitting at the computer. I usually weigh about 80. This is a little too much for my height, but not critical. However, if I only remove all sugars and preservatives from my diet, how my kilograms begin to melt in my eyes. At the same time, I can sit on my ass and do nothing. I once had a couple who bought condoms without lubricant and a pack of oil. I either held myself back while punching them. I doubt that there was a connection between these goods. If the guys are not stupid, then they are aware that lubricants on an oily basis destroy latex, and if they are stupid, then let them enjoy their oily baby. I worked at Dollar General. One night, some guy confidently flew into the store one night, and I, as it were, greeted him. He was on his wave, and he had nothing to do before the formalities. He goes straight to the shelf with movies, grabs some trash movie about kung fu, and returns to me. I knock on the product. The film costs $5.46. The dude puts his hand in his pocket and takes out a ball with nickels, 5-cent coins, and 1 penny. This guy brought 109 nickels and 1 penny to buy some shitty movie with the name of the Kung Fu Master, whose budget is unlikely to exceed $100. Damn. I've never had such respect for anyone like this guy. My brother knew what he wanted, and he got it. I work in a supermarket. A dude comes in and buys cherries for $300. I grinded the whole shelf to the last cherry. It wasn't even on a discount. I still don't understand what the hell he needed so many cherries for. I usually did not condemn anyone. Only if a person did not buy a lot of some shit. My favorite client was a dude who once bought 2 cans of tuna, a large package of disposable machines, and several jars of women's shaving cream. While I was doing all this, I was slightly struck by a laugh. The dude looked at me with a confused look. I asked, "Are you going to shave a cat?" I looked at his purchases and began to laugh wildly. By the time he left the store, we were already pouring tears with him. The rest at the same time heard us, so we looked like some kind of mentally ill. My father-in-law had a similar situation. Once we picked up a little orphaned goat, and my father-in-law went to the store to buy goat milk and baby diapers for him. The cashier looks at the goods and says, "Oh, do you have a baby who drinks goat milk?" The father-in-law replies, "No, we have a little goat who wears diapers." Everyone laughed, but something tells me that the cashier did not believe him. After a few years, this little goat became the most beloved child in the family, successfully bypassing me and my siblings. I used to work in one very pompous store of porcelain products. We had a set in which the prices for dishes varied from £2,000 for a dessert plate to £25,000 for a baking dish. Yeah, this whole dish was terrible, disgusting, and wildly overrated. If you bought something from this set, I would definitely think that you are an insensitive bastard who has more money than taste. £25,000 is about $40,000 you can buy a new Audi. Well, or a baking pan. Many years ago, I worked in a pharmacy in which there was a department with booze. I remembered one of our clients for life because she just broke my heart. She was 60 years old, or maybe 70, but she was always very clean and neat, despite the fact that she obviously had extremely limited income. She was very polite. Every morning she came to us and bought the same set: a pint of the cheapest vodka, a can of cat food, and one lottery ticket. After several months of such purchases, I decided to ask her how her cat was doing, and then it turns out that she never had a cat. She bought this cat food because it was cheap and good enough to live. I was so shocked. I could not imagine that this cute woman would start eating cat food in order to afford herself a bottle of vodka and a lottery ticket. I still can't get over this thought. No, in 10 seconds when you leave, I will not remember your face or what you bought there. I'm glad I saw your comment. I also worked as a cashier for several years and never judged anyone for buying, because I forgot about the buyer at the same second as he left the checkout. I was always too busy thinking about how I want to go home. The worst thing is when the buyer again enters the store in 30 seconds and you greet him for the first time, as if you are seeing each other for the first time. It's always really awkward when a guy tells you that he bought something from you. Something literally a minute ago, sorry. Or when you say hello to the same visitor 7 times a day, ask if he needs help, and wonder if he doesn't know about our special promotion. When guys bought tampons or gauze, I always thought how good you are. I could never understand why guys are ashamed to buy women's goods. This is direct evidence that they are failing. Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning. The dude comes to the cashier with 2 packets of wine and antifungal. His face is sad and downcast. Our eyes intersect. He nods slightly with such an expression like, "I regret it, right?" I nod slightly to him in response, and he leaves. Usually I don't care who takes what there, only if the buyers were polite. Only one regular visitor is pissed off, who likes to collect all kinds of junk, and then only a third of the goods are paid at the cashier, although they still spend a lot, and she is wildly rude. I condemn her by the full program. I worked for 11 years in one alcohol store. I didn't really care about what a person bought, but I paid attention to quantity and price. One woman every morning bought 3 50-gram bottles of vodka for $9.99. Her whole skin was already yellow. I condemn old people for any purchase in ROS. This is such a chain of shops in cheap clothes. They come to us every day, buy a bunch of useless shit, clothes, shoes for all the money, and then go to the neighboring ROS and return all the goods so that they can buy new shit. This is just some kind of addiction. I also worked in ROS, I confirm. For every 10 products sold, you have to pay 9 refunds. In our store, all the things were already so worn out and rubbed off with endless refunds that in fact, our store can be considered an expensive second-hand. I don't judge people by their purchases at all. I judge customers only by the way they treat other customers and store workers. I also worked as a cashier. I judged only people with children who paid with food stamps, but did not buy normal food. They stuffed their carts with lemonade, chips, cookies, and so on. There was no meat, no beans, no rice, no fruits, no vegetables. Nothing that would be satisfying and useful for their children. I would have understood if such purchases were one-off, for example, for the child's birthday. But no, there were the same people who bought the same shit every week. I don't condemn it at all. I don't care. I decided to buy the last part of The King of the Air on DVD, vegetables with an oblong shape and a bottle of grease. I don't care. It's great to have fun. You want to buy a zombie mask and a box of pretzels? I hope you will fall for this Halloween. I've been standing here for 7 hours. My back hurts. My legs itch from flat feet, and I don't give a damn about anything. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments under the video, Cashiers, write whether you have ever condemned buyers for their purchases. And if so, tell your strangest story. And don't forget to watch our other releases.